Traitor! Traitor! Traitor!
You staged this, didn't you? You staged this one. You staged it. You child abuser! You child abuser! Where's Jimmy Savile? Where's Jimmy Savile? Get back! Traitor! You child abuser!
The atmosphere outside Parliament was electric, charged with a palpable anger that reverberated off the historic stone walls. The crowd was relentless, their chants of traitor slicing through the din of city life, a visceral manifestation of their fury. It was far from a mere political disagreement. This was a full-throated expression of rage, aimed directly at Keir Starmer. As he approached the entrance, he tried to maintain an air of dignity, yet the jeers clung to him like a persistent shadow. For a leader who had prided himself on his calm demeanor, the scene unfolding before him was nothing short of a disaster. The day had begun routinely for Starmer, filled with briefings and public engagements, but as his vehicle navigated the final turns towards Parliament, an undeniable tension settled in. Protesters lined the streets, their numbers swelling alarmingly. Placards declaring accusations of betrayal waved defiantly, and voices rang out, fueled by a long-standing disillusionment that had reached a boiling point. This was a pivotal moment. Many in the crowd were former Labour supporters, individuals who had once stood by the party, but now felt utterly forsaken. Their chants weren't random. They were sharp, deliberate, and personal, designed to pierce the very heart of his political identity. The internal dynamics of Labour were already shifting. Starmer's leadership had been under constant scrutiny, with his cautious strategies regarding Brexit and foreign policy drawing ire from both sides of the aisle. His reluctance to take a firm stance on the Gaza conflict further alienated voters, who viewed his pragmatism as a symptom of indecision. The atmosphere outside Parliament was not just a protest. It was a manifestation of a broader discontent that had been simmering for months. Those witnessing the scene described an atmosphere thick with tension, almost ready to erupt. Some protesters wielded megaphones, amplifying their frustrated cries, while others stood silently, their placards speaking volumes. The police presence was noticeable but restrained, a careful balance aimed at preventing escalation. Yet, the protest was not about violence, it was about humiliation. Starmer had faced heckling before, but this felt uniquely devastating, a harsh rejection echoing off the very walls that housed the government's power. As the chants filled the air, reporters quickly noted the shift in public sentiment, labeling the atmosphere hostile and deeply personal. The emergence of social media only amplified the impact, with video footage of Starmer walking through the crowd rapidly spreading online. This was not merely a rough morning, it was a significant moment in a series of public pushbacks against his leadership. Just weeks prior, he had been booed during a speech in Southport, a clear sign of the growing dissatisfaction that had now spilled onto the streets of Westminster. The protest was a stark indicator that Labour, under Starmer's leadership, was becoming increasingly disconnected from its core voters. For many, it was the first sign that his leadership might not withstand the mounting pressure. Behind closed doors, the reaction among Labour MPs was telling. Some distanced themselves quietly, while others expressed growing alarm, concerned that such public backlash could tarnish the party's image ahead of the next election. Whispers of a leadership challenge, once relegated to hushed conversations, now echoed more openly. Starmer faced a dual challenge, the protest itself and what it signified. This was not an isolated incident, it was a clear signal that his base was fracturing. The very individuals who had once campaigned tirelessly for Labour were now openly expressing their betrayal. The reality was stark. If Starmer failed to regain their trust, his path to Downing Street could already be crumbling. Even as he entered the Parliament, the noise outside persisted, a constant reminder of the anger that had taken root in the public consciousness. His aides attempted to refocus on the day's agenda, but the message was clear. The discontent was real and growing. The protests weren't an isolated outburst. They were the culmination of a gradual erosion of trust between Starmer and those he had promised to represent. Months of frustration, fueled by a perception that he prioritized political expediency over core Labour principles, had reached a boiling point. The chants of Traitor were a manifestation of a sentiment that had been brewing in community halls and online forums across the nation. Starmer's shifting position on Brexit had alienated both Leave and Remain supporters, leaving them feeling betrayed. His reluctance to advocate for a ceasefire in Gaza had further cemented this perception, painting him as morally compromised. The backlash was further amplified by his recent comments that appeared to align him with controversial figures like Donald Trump, a move that shocked many and raised questions about his commitment to Labour's long-standing values. For critics, this was not pragmatism but a capitulation, a sign that he was willing to compromise core beliefs for potential electoral gain. Within the party, unease morphed into open dissent, with senior MPs expressing concerns about Starmer's ability to inspire confidence. His strategy of moderation, designed to appeal to a broader electorate, was increasingly viewed as a loss of Labour's identity. Without a clear and compelling vision, fears mounted that the party was unwittingly sleepwalking toward another electoral defeat. The protests were a stark reminder that Labour was losing touch with the very essence of its base. The optics were undeniable. A leader hurriedly entering Parliament while chants of Traitor echoed outside were not just damaging, they were emblematic of a deeper crisis of leadership. The Conservative Party wasted no time in seizing upon the moment, framing it as yet another instance of Labour's internal division. As evening fell, the ramifications of the protest were only beginning to unfold. Social media buzzed with commentary, and late-night talk shows turned the incident into a symbol of Labour's identity crisis. Each replay of Starmer's walk past the crowd was dissected, with varying interpretations of his demeanour. The perception of a leader unable to engage with his own supporters could be as damaging as any policy misstep. The following day, the fallout was palpable. News bulletins continued to highlight the protest, and discussions around Starmer's leadership intensified. The chants of Traitor had transcended mere protest. They had become a rallying cry, a defining narrative that would shape public perception moving forward. In the days that followed, it became increasingly clear that the incident had far-reaching implications for Starmer and the Labour Party. Internally, the mood was somber, with MPs grappling with the fallout and strategists rushing to gauge the impact on public opinion. The reality was that the trust that Starmer had sought to rebuild was slipping further away, and the urgency for a decisive response grew more pressing by the hour. As the political landscape shifted beneath him, Starmer faced a critical juncture. The question loomed large: could he navigate this storm, or was this just the beginning of the end for his leadership? The chants outside Parliament served as a stark reminder that the public was no longer willing to remain silent. The road ahead was fraught with challenges, and the stakes had never been higher.